had never seen a sky like this before. The Earth's atmosphere was different from Teryon's. The stars, so close, so bright, shimmered against the deep black canvas above me. My heart ached, not because of the beauty, but because I knew this planet was my last hope. My daughter lay unconscious in my arms, her fragile body shuddering with every breath she took, struggling against an illness I did not understand. We had traveled for months. No, not months, years. The time on my home planet Teryon is measured differently. I had spent an eternity in search of a cure, an answer, a way to save her. My name is Naila, and I am the last of my kind. Or so I thought. My species, the Ehlari, once ruled Teryon in harmony with nature, our advanced technology sustaining us for centuries. But something went wrong. When Kael, my daughter, fell ill, everything changed. We tried everything, our best scientists, healers, and ancient remedies. But nothing worked. Our people watched in helpless silence as the disease claimed her inch by inch, day by day. The sickness was unlike anything we had seen. It wasn't just a disease, it was something deliberate, engineered. I had no choice but to leave. The journey to Earth wasn't easy. The ship I had constructed was crude even for an Ehlari. But it was all I could manage with the little resources I had left. Earth, I had heard, was home to a race of beings who had evolved at a remarkable pace. They had technology. They had answers. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had what I needed. And yet, as I looked down at the silent, unconscious form of Kael, I couldn't help but feel the cold fingers of doubt tightening around my chest. Would they help us? Would they understand? The landing wasn't smooth. The ship's exterior scraped against the planet's atmosphere, sending violent tremors through the hull. I had been expecting it. These humans had no idea how fragile their world's gravity was. We had already lost enough time. But then when the ship finally hit the ground with a jarring thud, the silence that followed felt almost deafening. I didn't know if it was the calm before the storm, or if this was the end of our journey. I stepped out of the ship, Kael cradled in my arms. The air was cold, different from Teryon's warm winds. The humans had built structures that seemed unnatural, tall and metallic, and yet they stood solidly against the ground, unshaken by time. I looked around, desperate. Was this truly Earth? A flicker of movement caught my eye. A human, not too far from where I stood. His eyes widened in surprise, and before he could speak, I stumbled toward him, pleading, "Please help me. My daughter. She won't wake up. She's dying. Please. Human, help me." My voice cracked, and I struggled to keep myself from collapsing in exhaustion. I don't know what's happening to her. I don't know what this disease is, but she's fading and I can't lose her. She's all I have left. The human, a man with dark hair and a nervous expression, hesitated. I could see the confusion in his eyes, the skepticism. My appearance, tall, skin like smooth stone, eyes that shone with an otherworldly glow, must have startled him. My clothing, a mix of Teryon's ceremonial robes and the remnants of the spacecraft I had built, certainly didn't help. He looked at me for a moment, then at Kael, before stepping back slightly, his voice faltering. What are you?" he asked. I didn't have time for explanations. I didn't need to. I just needed him to understand my desperation. "I am Naila. I come from a world far from here. I am an alien, and my daughter, my Kael, is dying. I don't know why, but you must help me. Please, please." The human's face softened. He seemed to realize the gravity of the situation, the weight of my plea. He nodded slowly, stepping toward me. I don't know what I can do, but I'll help you. We'll figure this out." A sense of relief washed over me, but only for a moment. I had no idea if this human, this stranger, could truly help. But for the first time in what felt like years, I allowed myself to believe in something, someone, again. I don't know how much time she has left, I whispered. Every minute is a lifetime. Please help her. The man whose name was Orin led me to a nearby building. It was strange, this place, filled with advanced technology I couldn't begin to understand. Yet the humans had not reached the level of our kind, this was clear. But maybe, just maybe, they could save her. I followed Orin into the structure, not sure of what would come next, but my heart clung to a fragile thread of hope. Time was running out for Kael, but I wasn't ready to. Give up, not yet. Orin guided me through the building with a mix of caution and curiosity. His steps were quick, but his eyes kept darting back to me as if he was unsure whether to trust me. I couldn't blame him. If I were in his position, I would probably be just as wary. After all, what kind of alien crashes into your world carrying a dying child in her arms and pleads for your help? But we didn't have time for hesitation. Time was slipping away from us. The building's walls were lined with strange devices I had never seen before. They hummed with energy, blinking lights flashing in rhythmic patterns. I could tell this was advanced technology, even if I didn't fully understand it. Orin moved with purpose, leading me into what appeared to be a lab. His hands moved swiftly, pulling out equipment I couldn't recognize, checking readings on machines with an urgency that matched my own. Place her on this, Orin said, gesturing to a large table in the center of the room. I gently laid Kael down on the cold surface. Her once vibrant skin now appeared pale and fragile, and her breath came in shallow, irregular gasps. I could feel the weight of her illness, the invisible pressure that was pushing against her, choking her vitality. But even in her unconscious state, she looked peaceful, a peace I was desperate to preserve. Orin moved around her, touching different instruments, trying to scan her, but the readings on the machine seemed baffling to him. His brow furrowed with confusion as he manipulated the controls. This doesn't make sense, Orin muttered under his breath. The readings they're not normal. She's not normal, I replied softly. She's not sick in the way you know. Sickness. Her illness isn't like anything on your planet. Orin glanced at me, his expression hardening with disbelief. What do you mean? What is it? What's happening to her? I hesitated. How could I explain the depth of this? How could I tell him that her illness was a weapon, a deliberate construct of an enemy race? A race who had been waging war on my people for generations. I needed him to believe me, but how could I make him understand when I barely understood it myself? Kael is infected with something engineered, I began. It's not a disease from nature. It was made, created. It attacks the core of her biology, but it's more than just physical. It alters the very essence of what she is. I don't know how or why it exists. But my people, we were targeted. Orin stopped in his tracks, his hands frozen mid-motion. He stared at me, his face a mixture of awe and horror. Engineered? Who would do something like this? I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to admit that this was no accident, but I couldn't hide it any longer. The enemies of my people, I said, my voice heavy with grief. They seek to destroy us, to wipe us from existence. Kael, she's the proof. I was sent to find a cure, but more than that, I was sent to survive, to protect her, to protect my species. Orin turned back to the machine, his fingers flying over the buttons. You're telling me this is some kind of biological weapon? Yes, I replied, my throat tight with emotion. And it's spreading. I'm not the only one who's been affected. My entire race is dying one by one. Orin didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Kael, his expression a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. Finally, he spoke, his voice quieter now. If this is some kind of bioweapon, that means we're dealing with something that could be replicated. And if that's the case, he trailed off, his mind racing through the possibilities. This could be bigger than just your daughter. This could be a global threat. The words hit me harder than I expected. For a brief moment I felt a pang of guilt. I had come to Earth for help, but I had brought more than just my daughters. Suffering with me, I had brought danger, a threat that could spread far beyond our initial encounter. But Orin didn't seem frightened. His eyes were focused now, filled with determination. He wasn't backing down. "Look," he said, turning back to me. "We don't have much time. I need to run a few tests, but we might be able to stop this, Naila. There's a chance we can cure her. Maybe even reverse the damage, but we have to act fast. If this is engineered, we're going to need to figure out who did it and why." I nodded, my breath catching in my throat. I had no idea what Orin could do, or what he was planning. But for the first time since I'd landed on this planet, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe we could save Kael. Orin didn't waste time. His hands were moving again, quickly now, his focus sharp. He spoke in hurried tones as he adjusted settings on his machines. "You need to understand, Naila," he said, without turning to me. "What you're asking is going to take all my expertise, and this..." He pointed to Kael's still body. "This is unlike anything I've ever seen. But if this is what I think it is, we're not just facing an alien disease, we're facing a weapon. And weapons aren't easy to reverse." I watched him, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. Orin was my last hope, and the clock was ticking. Kael's condition was deteriorating even faster now. I could see it in her face, the pallor, the faint tremor of her hands. Each breath she took seemed to drain more of her life away. "What do you need from me?" I asked, my voice trembling as I stepped forward. Orin turned, meeting my gaze for the first time with something that almost looked like sympathy. "Stay with her. Trust me. This is going to be harder than anything we've done before, but I'm not giving up on her. I promise you, Naila, we're going to fight this together." I wanted to believe him, I needed to believe him, but as I looked at Kael's motionless form, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running out of time. The enemy wasn't just out there in the shadows of the galaxy anymore. They had followed us here, and they would stop at nothing to make sure we failed. The days blurred together in the lab as Orin and I worked tirelessly to find a solution. His expertise in human biology was a gift, but I could see the strain on his face. He was pushed to his limits, working around the clock to study Kael's condition and run tests that no one, human or alien, had ever performed before. Every test seemed to yield more confusion than answers. The virus, the illness, whatever it was unlike anything either of us had encountered. It was sophisticated, mutating at an alarming rate. If we didn't find a way to stabilize it soon, Kael would slip away, and with her, our last hope. But as the days wore on, something began to feel off. Orin, usually quick and methodical, started to seem distracted, his gaze becoming distant when he spoke. I noticed that he would sometimes leave the lab for long stretches, only to return with hurried excuses. He wasn't the man I had first met, the one who had promised to help Kael. No, now he seemed conflicted, torn. One evening, after hours of running another set of scans, I watched him as he paced back and forth in front of the machine. His hands trembled slightly, and his breath was shallow. "Orin," I said, my voice breaking the silence. "What's going on? You're not telling me something." He froze, his body stiffening at the sound of my voice. For a moment he said nothing. His eyes flickered to the door, as if he was considering whether to leave or confide in me. "Naila," he began, his voice low and hesitant. "There's something I need to tell you. Something you don't know. It's about the virus." "What about it?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "Have you found a way to stop it?" Orin hesitated, and in that moment I knew. Whatever he was about to say, it wasn't good. My instincts told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just about the virus anymore. Something else was at play, something darker. "It's not just a disease, Naila," Orin said slowly, his words heavy with guilt. "I've been looking into the origins of this virus. And it's not just engineered. It's been weaponized. I mean, more than you think. The group that created this, the ones who are behind Kael's sickness, they're not from your planet. They're part of a network, a much bigger, much more dangerous group. The room suddenly felt colder, as if the air itself had grown denser. I took a step toward him, my heart pounding in my chest. What are you saying? You're telling me there's someone else behind this? Orin swallowed hard, his eyes shifting uneasily. Yes, he said quietly. And they're not just after Kael. They're after you, Naila. They want you dead. And I'm afraid they've already been watching you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I could feel my breath catch in my throat. What do you mean, watching me? Why? Who are they? Orin looked down, his hands trembling as he gripped the edge of the table. He seemed to be at war with himself, struggling between guilt and fear. I didn't want you to know, he muttered. I didn't want to tell you, but you need to understand the truth. A chill ran down my spine as the pieces started to come together, though it was still hard to believe. Who are they, Orin? Who's behind this? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he exhaled deeply, as if preparing for something that would shatter everything. It's the Trium, a rogue faction of my own people. They've been experimenting with alien technology for years, trying to break the laws of biology, physics. They've been trying to weaponize diseases for centuries. I thought they were just a myth, a conspiracy. But they've been operating in the shadows, and now they've found you. I stepped back, my head spinning. The Trium? You're telling me your own people are behind this? Orin nodded, his face pale. Yes. They've been hunting you for a long time, Naila. Ever since the attack on your planet. Ever since they realized the power of your species. They saw you as a threat. And now they've targeted you. And Kael. He looked at me, his eyes filled with remorse. I never meant for this to happen. I had no idea. I swear, I didn't know they were involved. I took a deep breath, trying to process the weight of his words. This was bigger than I had imagined. Not only had the Trium created the virus to destroy Kael, but they had been waiting for the right moment to strike, to destroy me, to wipe out the last of the Ehlari. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. I had trusted Orin, had believed that he was a willing ally in this fight to save Kael, but now it seemed that my instincts had been wrong. Before I could say anything more, the door to the lab slammed open, and a group of men, humans, entered. Their faces cold, expressionless. I didn't recognize any of them, but the way they moved with such precision told me everything I needed to know. They weren't here to help. Orin stiffened at the sight of them. Teryon, he whispered, almost under his breath. What are you doing here? Teryon, a man I had seen around the lab before, stepped forward, his eyes locking onto mine. You should have stayed out of this, Orin, he said, his voice devoid of any warmth. You've been warned. The Trium doesn't take kindly to interference. Orin's face paled, his hand shaking. Teryon, you were working with them, weren't you? You're one of them. Teryon's lips curled into a smile, dark, unsettling. That's right. And it's time to finish what we started. The realization hit me like a freight train. Orin, the man I had trusted, had betrayed me. He had known about the Trium and their plans all along. He had been working with them, feeding them information, and now they were here to finish the job. But I wasn't going down without a fight. Before I could react, Orin made a sudden movement, rushing toward the nearest console and hitting a button. Get out of here, Naila, he shouted, his voice frantic. Run! The door to the lab slammed shut, and I found myself trapped in the room with the Trium operatives. My heart raced as I searched for a way out. But there was no time. They had come for me, and they had come for Kael. And now I had to decide. Would I survive this, or would I become just another victim of their endless war? The air in the lab grew thick with tension, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The Trium operatives stood before me, their cold eyes scanning the room as if they had already won. Orin, the man I had trusted, the one who had promised to help me, had betrayed me. The weight of his actions crashed into me, the betrayal deeper than anything I could have imagined. "You're not going to get away with this," I said, my voice more confident than I felt. I had nothing left to lose. They had come for my daughter. They had come for me, and I would not let them succeed. Teryon's smug smile grew wider. "You really think you have a choice, Naila?" He sneered. "You're a relic, a dying species. This planet will never be yours again." I glared at him, the anger boiling within me, but it wasn't just anger. It was a fire fueled by the realization of what they had done to my people. They had come to Earth with their weapons, their lies, and now they were here to finish what they had started. The Trium had wiped out the Ehlari on my planet, and they intended to wipe us out here as well. Suddenly, a harsh mechanical whirring filled the room, and I looked up to see that the wall-mounted device was activating. A blast of energy shot out, and the entire lab went into chaos. The Trium operatives didn't move fast enough. The blast knocked them to the ground, and the last thing I saw was Teryon's surprised face before the whole room was plunged into darkness. The hum of the machinery died down. Silence. For a moment it felt like time had stopped. I stood frozen, my breath heavy, my mind racing. I couldn't just sit there. I couldn't wait to be captured. There had to be something I could do. But then, I heard it. The faintest whisper of movement. A figure appeared from the shadows at the far corner of the room, a silhouette familiar yet hauntingly distant. "Orin?" I called out, my voice shaky but full of hope. He stepped into the dim light, his face pale and strained. He was no longer the man I had trusted. There was something different about him now, something cold and calculating. The guilt in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a calm determination that made my blood run cold. "You're alive?" I asked, my voice faltering. "Why are you helping them?" Orin said nothing at first. He just stood there watching me, his expression unreadable. But finally he spoke, his voice low and filled with a strange, unsettling calm. "I'm not helping them, Naila. I'm helping you." His words hung in the air, confusing and contradictory. I took a step back. "What do you mean? You're with them, aren't you?" "No," Orin replied, his gaze never leaving mine. "I was with them, but that's not the whole truth. I knew what the Trium were planning. I knew what they did to your planet, but I was waiting for the right moment to act, waiting for you to show up." My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to process his words. You were working with them all along? Orin, you lied to me." "Yes," he admitted, his voice devoid of emotion. "I lied. I betrayed you. But it wasn't because I wanted to see you fail. It was because I needed to protect you. You don't understand, Naila. This isn't just about your daughter. This isn't just about the Trium. There's something much bigger at play here." I stared at him, completely lost. "What are you talking about? What could be bigger than this? Kael is dying. My people are dying. The Trium are here to finish us off. How could it get worse?" Orin looked down at his hands as if considering whether to continue. "You're right. The Trium are a threat, but they're only a part of a larger game. The truth is, Naila, your people were never just victims in this war. You were chosen by a higher power, a force that has been manipulating the course of history across galaxies." My mind raced as I tried to comprehend what he was saying. "Chosen? What are you talking about?" Orin took a deep breath before answering. "The Ehlari were never just a peaceful species. You were designed, Naila. You and your people were created for a purpose, by an ancient, powerful race known as the Elders. The Trium didn't attack your world because they feared you. They attacked you because you were the key to unlocking something far more dangerous." I couldn't breathe. My mind spun in circles, grasping at the fragmented pieces of this revelation. The key to what? Orin's gaze hardened, and he stepped closer. The key to the end of everything. You and your people were designed to unlock the Aether Nexus, a source of unimaginable power. It can reshape the fabric of reality itself. The Trium are trying to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. But they aren't the only ones who know about the Aether Nexus. There are others, beings even older and more powerful than the elders who want to use you, Naila. Use you to open the Nexus and destroy everything in their path. I felt the ground beneath me shift as the weight of his words sank in. So, I wasn't just running from the Trium. I was being hunted for something much worse than I ever imagined. Yes, Orin said quietly. And now they've found you. They've found Kael, and they've already begun. I turned to look at Kael's still form on the table, and it was then that I noticed it. Something strange, something subtle. The faint glow of her skin. It pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. A deep, resonant hum in the air. Kael, I whispered, stepping toward her. Orin's voice was urgent now. It's happening, you have to stop it, you're the only one who can. As if on cue, the hum intensified, filling the room with an otherworldly vibration. And then, just as I reached out to touch Kael, everything exploded into light. The room was no longer a lab. It was something else entirely. The walls around me shifted, folding in on themselves. The air shimmered with energy, as though reality itself was bending and warping. Kael's eyes shot open. Her irises glowed a brilliant shade of violet, and she rose, her body levitating off the table, bathed in the brilliant light that now consumed the room. I could feel the power emanating from her, from within her. Something ancient. Something vast. Kael, I whispered in awe, and then she spoke, her voice not her own. It was deeper, more resonant. Mother, the Aether Nexus has been unlocked. It is time. Everything I had known, everything I had believed, shattered in that moment. Kael, my daughter, was the key. She had always been the key. And now she was about to unleash something far beyond my understanding. But was this the end? Or the beginning?